Hello and welcome to this lecture. And in this lecture, we will learn about one of the most important concepts in Django REST framework, and that is nothing but serialization of models. So even before we learn what exactly serialization is, you need to understand how data is currently stored in our Django application. So as we all know, we have added the sample movie data over here, which has the name of the movie, the duration of the movie, and the rating of the movie right over here. And we can actually go ahead and add the data related to other movies as well. So we already knew that there's nothing new in there, but the only thing which you need to learn is in which particular format this data is actually stored here. So in our case, the data is stored in a user model. It's actually stored in a database table, which is nothing but the movie data table, which has been created from the movie data model. So now that data is actually stored in the model, we need to be able to access this data for our API purposes. So we actually need a way to take that data from a model and we need to put it out to the users via an API. So what serializers allow us to do, or what serialization allows us to do, is that it allows complex data such as query sets, model instances to be converted to native Python data types that can then be easily rendered into formats like JSON or XML or other content types. So we essentially want to do the same procedure here. So currently, this my movie over here is nothing but it's actually a model instance, and we want to convert that model instance into some format like JSON or XML, because that's what an API actually does. That means that if we want to generate a JSON response for our API, we need to take this data which we currently have in our Django models and we need to convert that into JSON using serializers or serialization. So how exactly can we perform serialization? So in order to serialize this model here, we actually need to go into our app, which is movies, and we need to create a file called as serializers.py. So let's go ahead, create a new file. Let's call it as serializers.py, and in here we'll go ahead and create a serializer. So in order to create a serializer, first of all, you obviously need to import serializers from REST framework. So we already have REST framework installed, so we can directly import serializers here by typing in from REST_framework import serializers. And now once we have the serializers imported, we need a model as well, because we are going to serialize that model. So we'll type in from .models, and we want to import the movie data model. And now once we have imported them, let's go ahead and learn how to create a serializer. So in order to create a serializer for any model, what you essentially do is that you create a class. So we type in class, and let's say we name this thing as the movie serializer because it's going to serialize the movie data model. So I'll type in movie serializer. This class is actually going to inherit from serializers.model serializer. So model serializer is one type of serializer which we are using right now, and a model serializer is nothing but, as the name suggests, it's something which serializes your model. So nothing new in that. Now once we have this, we are going to have a meta class in here which is actually going to contain the name of the models and the fields. So I'll type in class meta, and in here you actually need to pass in the name of the model which you want to serialize. So here we want to serialize the movie data model, hence we will go ahead and type in model equals, that's going to be movie data. And now once we have the model, we need to now mention which fields do we want to mention in the API response. So currently we have these fields here, and let's assume that you want to display all of them in the API response. You can simply go ahead and type in fields here, and let's go ahead and add these fields one by one. So we have ID, then we have name, and ID is actually a by default field which is not present here, but each item which you add in here in movie data is going to have a unique ID. That's why we have ID over here. And then it can have duration and rating. So once we have added all those fields, we are pretty much done creating the serializer. So now what this serializer does is that, first of all, it's actually going to take a look at which model it's working with. So it says that the model which we are working with is a movie data model. Then what the serializer does is that it looks at the field which it needs to basically go ahead and serialize. So it's going to go into this model, look for these fields right here, and it's going to generate a JSON response out of these fields, and it's going to give it back to us. Now, this serializer does a job of just serializing the models, but what we need to do is that once these models are serialized, we need to take that response and we need to create a view out of this response, because how else are we going to display the serialized response to the end user? Hence, our next job is to actually go ahead and create views for this particular serializer. So just as with any Django application, like we create a model, then we create a view, then we associate a URL with that view, the same thing works here as well. That is, first of all, we have created the model, and now instead of directly jumping to creating views and creating URLs, what we do is that after creating models, we create serializers. Then after creating the serializer, we make use of the serializer to create a view which actually displays the data which is generated by the serializer, and then we go ahead and associate a URL with that particular view. So I hope this flow actually makes sense to you and you understand how exactly API creation process works. So in the next lecture, we will go ahead and we will build a view for this particular serializer. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Thank you.